beautiful. And I really didn't know him well, but the little bit I did through my husband, Ted, I loved him. You can't help it. Amen.
Good evening. Wow, it's great, isn't it? I'm Bill Dwyer. I spoke at Dennis's other service at the chapel. Is there anyone else that wants to speak? Mary Alice has asked me to speak last and wrap it up, so if there's anyone, please come on down.
I just want to thank everyone for coming. A lot of you guys made a big trip. My father was the type of person that he just connected with everybody. And, it was just that kind of guy that, without even saying much, he just made an impact on a lot of people, including me and a lot of others. And I'm just grateful I got the opportunity to learn and to be mentored by him and spend all the quality time that I did, because he made a big impact on me. And I really miss him every day, just the little things. And, he was a giant among men, and he'll be missed. And thank you, everybody, for coming out.
Anybody else, please? Anyone? Brian. Great.
My name is Brian Major. A lot of my successes came alongside of Dennis Bell. As a lot of people have said earlier, there was one person you could count on to be there when you needed them, and it was Dennis. It's great to see all these people here today. And Dennis, you went too soon.
Great. I'm going to talk to you I made notes in a bold brain in the 70s. I got to know Mary Alice and Dennis independently. I met them in different circumstances, worked with them, only to find out they were dating and married when we went to the wedding. And so it's great to know both of them. Mary Alice from the art world and Dennis from the production world. Dennis and I worked in production. I was still frame photographer, worked a lot of major events. We did Super Bowls and Grand Prix and Rolling Stones and giant concerts. Dennis was always there and I was always there. So we saw all these great things from the inside. It was an interesting connection we had with each other. So we had inside humor and inside bitches and complaints and inside laughter. It was wonderful. Dennis Bell was always the largest man in the room, not just because he was tall, because he knew more than most people and conducted himself in such a professional and fun manner. And as we've heard tonight, I think everyone here kind of thinks Dennis was their best friend, because that's the kind of guy he was. You felt like this was your best friend, and maybe we all were. I'm going to just talk about a few stories. One of the things that Dennis and I would share in common, we'd work these big events, thousands of people, and we'd have to move around, him to check all the lights and the sound and all the things, and me to get different angles to make pictures from. And we called it cutting a crowd. We could walk through a crowd, sliding, we could go from one end of a big arena to the next in a minute or two. We just knew how to cut and cross. Because of that, Dennis had an advantage, being taller and thinner. He could cut that crowd better than I. But we would run into each other quite often, because we would travel kind of the same organic channels through the crowd. Which leads me to a story where we had radios, and I got radioed that I was supposed to meet somebody, a musician, with some young person behind the stage to make a picture, and Dennis was setting this up. Dennis got radioed. He thought it was happening back by the freight elevator. So we crossed each other, and we said, no, we're going this way. I said, no, we're going that way. So we both went the other way, couldn't find what was happening. Coming back through the crowd, we of course ran into each other again, and we said, let's go this way, that way. And then a third time we ran into each other. We finally got the directions right. Big crowd, radio, hard to hear what's going on, band playing. And Dennis, in his great sense of humor, said to me, next time we have to consult with Mo. Because clearly we felt like two of the Three Stooges. Dennis always knew where the better food was at these events. There's different food set out for different people. Quite often, when the main act would go on stage, Dennis would give me the little sign, and we'd go raid the leftover food. And where the cold water was. And big outdoor events, that was important. I sometimes would see Dennis's mad power generators at other events, and I knew he was working them, and I'd call him up, and he'd meet me somewhere, and he would have, hey, you need a backstage pass? And you need, put it on my wrist, you need some food tickets? He'd have them. Big heart. Dennis and I worked probably 14 or 15 consecutive dream cruises together. And as we got a little less young, they became long weekends on our feet and knees, and we were talking to the promoter about the possibility of us getting golf carts. And then finally, one August, it happened. And I got my golf cart, and Dennis, always being the first one there, was out on his golf cart. And I'm driving around, and I see him in his golf cart with his long blonde hair flowing, but he doesn't see me. I go in front of him, come up in front of him until we're facing each other. And without rehearsal, without care for anyone else around us, like two adolescents, we ran the golf carts into each other. And we're just squealing our tires and pushing on each other and laughing hysterically. Because after all, we were professionals. It was one of those moments that I can only share with Dennis. There was a time, I think it was a food and wine festival somewhere in Battlebrook. I saw the manpower generators, I knew he'd be working. I was looking for him, I saw him going by on the golf cart. This was right after our other golf cart incident. And there was all these volunteers from OU running around in golf carts. So I talked to this volunteer, I must use your golf cart to go see this man. It's very important. I think I told her I couldn't walk well and stuff. So, you know, she was 19 or something, slid over, I jumped on the golf cart, ran up behind Dennis on the golf cart, and rammed him. He didn't even have to turn around. He said, Bill, I didn't know you were working this. The volunteer, of course, was freaking out at this point. He was screaming at me to get off the golf cart. But it was worth it, you know, just for Dennis and I could have that moment of adolescence. Dennis had a wry sense of humor. And he told me some of his stories, especially with David Copperfield, who he seemed to enjoy messing with immensely. David Copperfield had a very disciplined mind in order to do the great illusions that he did. And Dennis said that his plate and his silverware and his napkin and his water glass had to be in exactly the right place. Dennis would love to walk by and change the spoon and fork, move the water glass to the other side before he sat down. And he said David would literally sit down and look at it and just go into a disbelief kind of trance, and then have to get everything right before he could even eat the food. Dennis loved that moment. He just liked messing with him. It's that sly humor Dennis had. I will tell you a story, and I will apologize in advance, but this is Dennis. And I was working some event, and was some Motown 60s band on stage, the Four Tops or something. A woman came up to me, she seemed I had access to the stage. At this point, I was in the crowd making those kind of shots. And she wanted me to go up and ask the band to play a certain song that her and her husband heard on their first date. And I said, I can't do that. I don't interact with their act. That's what they do. I make pictures, they sing, and we all have our place. She was like, I know you can get up there. I said, I can't. I said, you write it down on paper and take it in front of the stage, maybe we'll play it for you. But if it's a hit song, they're gonna play it anyways. Not enough. She went around me and somehow sweet talked her way by the person at the bottom of the stairs to go up the stairs. An important part of the story is that she was a big gal. There was a lot of women to her. And she goes thundering up those stairs and she runs into Mr. Dennis Bell. I can't hear the conversation. I know what she's asking. He turns and says a few things to her, and she slowly comes down the stage with a look of just pure disgust on her face. You see, Dennis could be colorful with the English language. No, Dennis could be downright vulgar with the language, and it had been a long day. She was not about to get on that stage, and on no uncertain terms, Dennis told her she wasn't going to do that. After the event ended, I asked Dennis what he said to that poor young lady. And I'm not sure I can even repeat it in front of all of you. You can ask me later or having a drink, but it regarded her gender, her size, and her ignorance. And ask me later, I'll tell you, but I'd like to leave it at that in front of this mixed crowd. Dennis could also be super nice. I was shooting something, and they had a VIP section in front of the stage. I ran into a woman I worked with at another production company, and she was with her sister, and it was a Rick Springfield concert. And they would have done anything to get closer to Rick Springfield. They'd seen him like 28 centimeters or something like that. And he tends to work the edge of the stage, and the one girl had said, one time I think I touched him. She goes, could you get us into the VIP area? I said, well, I could probably do a little better. And I talked to Dennis. Dennis put backstage all access passes on the wrist. We went into the dressing room. We met Rick Springfield. He put his arms around her. We made pictures. He pulled out chairs to sit right on the edge of the stage, right off the stage, but the same level. Rick Springfield gives flowers to the girls. He gave them flowers. He really just went all out, and Dennis set that up. Dennis went out on the stage after the show and took the set list off the floor where they tape it by the microphone and got Rick to sign it and presented it to him, the whole thing. They often told me it was the greatest night of their life and told Dennis that. And Dennis and I, sometimes the older fellows would grin and giggle that we gave these two young ladies the greatest night of their life because we got them closer to Rick Springfield. But it was such a big heart that Dennis had for two people he'd never met, and if they were friends of Bill's, they were friends of Dennis. That's the way he rolled. There's a time that was a long, hot day, and nothing had gone right, and Dennis and I retreated to his truck, which is kind of a shrine for him, a sacred place. Dennis said, go ahead, get in the truck. He gave me a bottle of water. He says, just don't talk. Dennis and I sat in the truck, staring out the front window for maybe 20 minutes, saying nothing. And then finally, the sound that we knew in the business we're in, the band has stopped playing. So we knew that We had to go back to work. Dennis to set up the next crowd, me to get ready to shoot the next band that came on. As we walked back behind the stage and up the ramp, still in silence, Dennis said, "Hey, Bill." And I looked, and those of you that know Dennis, like, had this kind of head bob and this kind of grin. So he kind of bobbed his head and gave me that grin. And I just looked back at him and said, "Yeah." And we went about our business. It was one of those perfect moments you have with somebody where you clearly understand each other without a lot of communication. Dennis Bell embodied friendship to me. And if I could name on one hand 5 people who showed me great friendship, Dennis would be one of them. And I know we all miss Dennis. We're all going to continue to miss Dennis. But I firmly believe we are better people having known Dennis and having known Dennis as our friend. Our life is fuller because of it. Life is not about how long you live. It's about how well you live it. Therefore, Dennis lived a very full life. Thank you, and Mary Alice says there's music's going to start a little while downstairs.